Hybrids. Yeah, to the true petrol head like me, the Prius has been the only one that's ever really made any sense. It works like a normal car, but actually saves you money at the pumps. What about a plug-in hybrid though, like this BMW 530e? Does it still save you money? And also, what happens if you make a mistake like I did and forget to charge the bloody thing? Anyway, let's find out. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. We're on Instagram, so if you want to see behind the scenes footage, weekly updates, and some of the stuff we've got for sale, click the link in the description below. Okay then, what powers this thing? Well, underneath it's effectively a BMW 520i with added electric power to make it the 530e. That means you have a 184 horsepower 4-cylinder engine and a 113 horsepower electric motor, which when combined means this sexy saloon makes 252 horsepower. Yeah, the math ain't mathin', is it? Well, actually it is. You see, the engine makes its peak power at 5,000 RPM, yet the electric motor makes its peak power at a very different RPM. Basically, when one is at its peak power, the other one isn't. So you have to superimpose the two over each other and work it out that way. A bit confusing, but apparently that's how it works. Anyway, that means this 5 Series can do 0 to 60 in just 5.8 seconds. Not bad. What happens though once it's moving? Let's do the 30 to 70 sprint and find out. Well, damn. I mean, there's no beating around the bush. This thing flies. We managed a time of just 5.41 seconds. That's faster than some cars with quite a substantial amount more power, and not far off of proper hot hatches like the Mark III Ford Focus RS. That's genuinely impressive considering this thing weighs 1.8 tons as well. And I mean, it's still a 5 Series, so you get an interior fit for even the finest Romanian gangster. Ambient lighting, digital cockpits, wood trim, and some of the comfiest seats I've sat in for a while are just at the tip of the iceberg of this car's features. One thing I love in particular though is the choice of control. No forced touchscreen usage here. Any chance we could go back to this BMW? No? Okay. Anyway, the rear offers very decent knee and headroom. Uber Lux drivers take note. You even get some neatly tucked away cup holders and even some climate vents. Nice. Unfortunately though, this is where the good ends, as whilst the boot may have some neat features like this little shopping hook, it is a whopping 120 litres smaller than the non-hybrid 5 Series. Yeah, batteries take up a lot of space. And unfortunately, that means some larger suitcases won't even fit back here. And yes, you do have an adaptable boot floor, but that's more for shopping bags than anything else. So yeah, you ain't buying this for the airport run. Anyway, let's get this thing on the road and see what its real-world performance is. So, a bit of a mixed bag start then. Boot is not good, and what's even worse is the battery is completely flat for the hybrid system. So yeah, amazing start to this review, but anyway, we crack on. It's going to be interesting though to kind of see the real world performance of this hybrid system, because not everyone has a place to charge their hybrid vehicle. You know, if you don't have a permanent residence with a driveway, how are you going to charge this thing? You're going to have to take it to a pod point or use one of the free chargers at supermarkets. They're not always going to be available, and they don't always work. In fact, most of the time they don't, as I found out when I was living with a Mini Electric. By the way, if you want to see the review for that, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner. But anyway, how does this car drive? Well, it's BMW. I've got a nice low slung seating position. You can adjust the pitch of the base. Very comfortable seats in the 5 Series. Steering nice and light. Not a huge amount of feel so far, but it is nice. And this hybrid drivetrain, do you know what? For just pootling around town, is very nice. Even when the engine's on, it's always very subdued. blah, blah, blah. Even when the engine's on, it's always very subdued, because obviously you've just got huge amounts of torque from that electric motor to push you along. So yeah, it's very calm, very quiet, and just very smooth, surprisingly. I feel like, look, just come off the brake and it's just instant. You're never waiting for power to come in, which is quite nice. So clearly it never lets the battery go completely flat, but I doubt we're going to be putting it in electric only mode today. But for just wafting, so far very nice. And then of course if you're going down a hill, you've got regenerative braking. So if I come off the throttle, you'll see it's now charging the battery, which is quite good. I'm going to try and drive fairly efficiently today. But yeah, on the menu here I've got up the eDrive status, so you can see what part of the vehicle is doing what. So the engine's off at the minute, and we're just driving in electric only mode. So even though I haven't charged the battery at all, just going down that hill then gave us enough charge to just get us down this little bit of the road. So you never know, even without a full charge, this might do okay in terms of MPG. I'm going to do a car wizard prediction, and I'm going to say this is going to do... Oh, do I be pessimistic? Yes, I'm going to be very pessimistic and say this is going to do 32 miles per gallon. Yeah, and when the engine turns on, you just get this little like a little breath of air. It's just sucking in that little bit of air. But it's almost unnoticeable, especially when you're moving. Anyway, in terms of parking, this is still regular 5 Series size, so it's not that bad. For driving around London though, it is still a 5 Series, so it is a fairly large vehicle, especially in terms of its length. This thing's nearly 5 metres long, which is big. And yeah, parking the thing can be quite difficult in some London spaces. Obviously this space should have been a complete cakewalk, but I absolutely pants at parking clearly. So once we are in the space, like an actual space, that's about as far as I can go there, and as you can see, we're just about in the space, and then you can always get to the first notch on the door really. Yeah, so living with it in London is doable, but a 3 Series is easier. It just means you're never having to kind of like look for the bigger space. In this you do have to do that on the odd occasion. Let this guy go, then we can do a little junction test. Let's see what this hybrid drivetrain is like out of junction. So let's get that parking assist off so we can see what the cars do. Engine is off, eDrive is ready. Half throttle, let's go. Okay, engine came on straight away. Fairly smooth. Usually that transition between electric and petrol power is a bit jerky. Coming out of the junction then, totally fine. So far though, this car feels very nice to drive, and we are actually going to reset our trip computer just to see what MPG we can do, even though the battery isn't charged. It's a real world test. Before we see what MPG this thing can do on the motorway, let's get it to a roundabout and see how this handles. It's got a lot of battery weight in it, so yeah, it might feel a bit floaty. Let's find out. Okay, we're in sports, traction control is off, stability is on though, so it'll save us if we go a little bit too sideways. Don't worry, prior to this I did warm up the engine. I would never drive it hard from cold. I think that would make me cringe if I did that. But yeah, manual gearbox, nice sharp shifts from the ZF8 speed. Let's see what this slightly heavier 5 Series is about. Yeah, it'll still go sideways, that's for sure. Obviously rear wheel drive, plenty of torque from the electric motors, and response is mega. Especially when you think this is basically a 520i with a bit of electric gubbins in the boot. Very impressive. Even in fifth, plant your foot. Look at that, 60 to 70. Quicker than a diesel. Crazy. Anyway, now we're going into Eco Pro. This is where it's really going to give us some good economy figures, hopefully. Let's get onto the motorway and see what this thing can do. Okay then, coming onto the motorway, even in eco, we've still got loads of torque from that electric motor. Look at that, it just glides. Wonderful. Not even using 40% of the available power. And get your cruise control on. And that is all she wrote. Visibility is fairly good. Wind and road noise are very low in this, surprisingly low. Engine's running as well, so yeah, NVH levels very good. Strange. It seems to be a little bit quieter than other 5 series that I've driven. I don't know, maybe that's because the battery kind of adds a bit of noise insulation, I suppose, but it does seem very quiet in here. Very nice. Right, I'm going to be a typical BMW driver and do some relaxing now. Yeah, suspension is very well damped actually. Even though we've got those hybrid batteries in the boot, it doesn't do that pogo-y thing that some of the earlier hybrids did. It just seems very well calibrated, suspension-wise, engine-wise. Yeah, actually, let's see what the response is like on the motorway. So if I slow down, there's no one behind me yet, so if I slow down to about 50 and then just give it half roll. Okay. Yeah, that is fairly decent. In fact, that is very decent. Just smooth. I mean, if you couldn't hear the 4-cylinder, you'd think this was a 540i just from the low-down torque that the electric motor gives you. Currently, though, sitting at 22 miles per gallon, which is not very good. So hopefully that improves. Anyway, let's crack on the motorway, do about 15-16 miles of driving, and see what MPG this thing really does when the battery's dead. So my slightly pessimistic prediction was actually pessimistic. We managed 36.2 miles per gallon with a battery that hasn't been charged. BMW, I take my hat off to you. That is very impressive for a big Luxo barge like this thing that weighs 1.8 tons. And I haven't charged the battery. So, yeah, that's not bad. The thing is, though, a diesel, you don't have to charge it, you just fill it up, and it's still going to do better than that. So, swings and roundabouts. If I had have charged this, it would have done better, but then I would have to have charged it, and that's a pain in the backside, especially if you don't have, again, a permanent residence where you can plug it in overnight. So, it's got a very specific use case, this car. If you have somewhere to plug it in and you are doing around like 40 miles a day, then you might get 100 miles per gallon out of it. If you're not doing that, I mean, I think the diesel is the better option. Or just go for the 530i rather than the E, as you still really get the same power. You actually get a slightly more powerful B48 engine. You get the 250 horsepower engine versus this 184 horsepower engine. And the economy figure is going to be roughly the same, as long as you're not charging the battery. Anyway, now let's get onto a B road and watch that figure absolutely plummet. Even my predicted range just on this journey has gone from 121 miles to 56. So yeah, well, let's watch it drop even further, I suppose. Well, just driving to the B road has made the range go down to a point where the fuel light has now come on, so we're might have to cut this driving section short a little bit, unfortunately. Anyway, Sports Plus, traction off, gearbox in Sports as well. Engine comes to life. Let's go for manual. And now there's a van in front of us. Let's go for take 2. Let's go. Plenty of torque from that electric motor still. Fundamentally, a fairly quick car. And you get a bit of fake noise from the speakers. Yeah, not bad. Let's see what the brakes are like, actually, because obviously this is regen braking. So let's give it about half brake. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a nice transition, actually, between the regen braking and the actual disc. A lot of hybrids, you get this kind of slightly weird, spongy feel from the brakes, but this seems alright, actually. Steering, yeah, I mean, it's like a computer game, really. But one thing that I'm not noticing that much of so far is the weight. Ooh, good response from the engine. Look at that. It's a quick car, man. Like, genuinely. Gear shifts, not the fastest in the world, but it's not really supposed to be a sports car, is it? It's a big Luxo barge. Right, let's give the brakes another go. A bit harder this time. Yeah. Actually more reassuring than regular BMW brakes, which is quite ironic. Right, let's give it a bash around here. A bit of slip from the rear. Okay. Traction control said, nope, I've had enough of that. Definitely didn't want us sliding around. I'm guessing that's because there is more weight just in the chassis. And oh my god, our range is going down very quickly. Okay, we're going to have to come off on the next junction, I think. Typical Honda driver. What is he doing? But the response from low down is really nice. Let's do a little sound check, actually. Yeah, it's a 4-cylinder. I don't know why I expected anything from that. But yeah, even in third, so from like 2,500 revs, plant your foot, and you get a nice big shove in the back of electric torque. So let's do it from fourth, actually. This corner. Again, 2,500 revs, plant foot now. Look at that. That is mega. That's where a hybrid drivetrain is good, because if you find yourself in the wrong gear, you still have proper acceleration. That's where you get that really nice electric response. Suspension round corners, not bad. And can you feel the weight? I will say sort of. The reason I say sort of is because the usual BMW will go very sideways around there when you plant your foot. This, though, is reining me back in because it knows it weighs a lot and it doesn't want the back end to get really sideways, because then it's going to stay sideways for quite a while because you just got a lot of mass, a lot of junk in that trunk, if you will. So yeah, it's not quite as exciting as something like a 530i, but still a nice balance and still a BMW. Anyway, let's take it to a smaller B road now, as we only have 11 miles of predicted range. Good God, am I actually going to make it to the petrol station? Okay, let's give it some. Whoa. Okay, at low speeds it lets you slide it around. But yeah, you definitely feel the weight when it goes sideways. Look at this thing. I mean, instant response at the corners, even though it's rear wheel drive, plenty of traction. Suspension softly sprung, so it lollops around a bit. But it's just that instant response. Brakes, braking. Right, foot down. Yeah, very nice. I mean, look at that. It ain't slow. Okay, will we hit 60 before the corner? Let's go. Look at that. Beastly. Third gear is very impressive, actually. It's a quick car. It really is. I mean, if you map the engine in this, you're talking like BMW 540i kind of fast. And that's a B58. Placement on the road, yeah, I can kind of get it where I want it. This hybrid is driving quite well. And one last time. A lot of traffic today, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to take it slower on this one. I am running out of fuel as well, actually. So let's just go into comfort, I think. But yeah, on a B road, not bad. Suspension deals with the weight well. Traction control is a little bit too intrusive, I will say. But then again, are you buying this to drive like a hooligan? No. 99% of the population are not going to drive like I just did down there. But it does entice you a little bit, actually. You know, it kind of goads you on. It goes, you know, want to have a little bit of fun. This car is pretty quick. And that instant response is quite addictive, actually. In electric cars alone, you kind of get used to it. But in a hybrid car, just having that, just like instant go, is quite nice. So yeah, overall, a very nice car. Personally though, would I ever buy one? Unfortunately, the answer is no. I would just get a 530i instead of one of these. But that's my own personal opinion. And the reason I say that is because this does have a use. It's a very specific use case, but it is useful, and very useful in that very specific genre. So, again, if you do 40 miles a day, which most people do actually, and you have somewhere to charge it at home, it's actually quite a good car to have, because you're then saving a lot of money on petrol, yet if you still need to do a long journey, you can. You've still got that engine to back you up. So I think, yeah, if you do have somewhere to charge it, it's worth having. My only concern is long-term reliability when it comes to these things, because, you know, if you're a petrol head, you know that the engine needs to be warmed up, or at least not freezing cold. And when you're driving around in like 5 degrees, and, you know, you might be driving on the motorway and then suddenly put your foot down, and that's the first time the engine's been turned on. That does worry me, and I do think long-term longevity, I mean, we'll have to wait and find out to see how reliable these things are. Personally, I think, you know, either straight petrol or straight electric is going to be more reliable than a hybrid system. But if you look after it and you use it in that very specific use case, I think it does have its place, you know. I think it does work. And yeah, in terms of driving experience, obviously you've still got an engine, so it still feels like the car has a bit of soul compared to a pure electric car. So I mean, you're almost getting the best of both worlds, really. You've got that instant electric response, yet you've still got at least an engine note. I know it's only a 4-cylinder, but it's something, you know, you can still use the paddles to go through gears. So yeah, if you like hybrids, I think this is quite a nice car to have. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy watching this content, please give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which actually includes this now very low on fuel BMW 530e. It's a very nice spec car, this. It's got the ambient lighting, Harman Kardon sound, electric, heated seats, and yeah, it is lovely to waft around in. Anyway, my name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.